what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Gwent, and today we're playing more of the dual casting seasonal event, which is an alternate game mode in which the first time that we play a special card on our turn, we will play that card twice. That means that any special cards or units that are powered up by special cards are twice as effective as usual. And that is what our deck is built around, so let's go give it a look. So today we'll be playing a Scoia'Tael Nature's Gift Symbiosis deck. And that means that whenever we play a nature card, Symbiosis will spawn in a 1-power Wandering Treant. So we have that as a passive ability that comes along with our leader ability in addition to the little bit of vitality as well. But we also have units with Symbiosis like the Hamadryad, which means that those treants that get spawned in will have 1 more power. And because in this event we play twice as many nature cards as usual, this archetype is basically twice as good as it would normally be. So in terms of additional sources of Symbiosis, we also have Freixenet, which can spawn in young Dryads. So Freixenet himself may not have Symbiosis, but he'll spawn in something with Symbiosis immediately. And then at worst, every 4 turns we can spawn in additional young Dryads. But if we use, say, a leader ability on Freixenet to give him some vitality, that means we'll get this cooldown more quickly, giving us additional Symbiosis units more quickly. Similarly, the Abandoned Girl can use her order ability to transform into a young Dryad, which gives us even more Symbiosis. Then lastly we have Eithne, who, after recently getting reworked, once she reaches her final form in round 3, which will happen because we do have Devotion, she'll be at 10 base power and have immunity, so our opponents can't target her, and she has Symbiosis 3, which means those Wandering Treants are, at worst, going to be 4 power apiece, and if we have additional Symbiosis units on the board, they'll be even bigger than that, making each nature card that we play extremely valuable. Then, in terms of what nature cards we have Call the Force, which is our best tutor, because it can give us anything. We have Shaping Nature, which gives us a huge point slam, either with the pure points, or if we have something like the Hamadryad, which also gets additional boost from Vitality, might make sense to go the Shaping Nature Vitality route. Isengrim's Council for some additional tutoring. Just bear in mind that we have a lot of Dryads in our deck, only 1 Dwarf, and not a ton of Elves, but the notable exception here is that we cannot play any humans from our deck with Isengrim's Council, and we do have a few of those. So make sure you're not relying on Isengrim's Council to get one of those cards. Then Bountiful Harvest will give us Nature procs, hand boosts, and more units on the board as well. Nature's Rebuke gives us damage, and because we'll have a lot of treants on the board, that Death Blow can also give us some nice boosts. Circle of Life for a little bit less damage, but does give us some hand boosting. And Dryad's Crest, which can purify cards and boost them by 3, and because we're almost always going to have a Dryad on the board, we're likely to get that vitality as well. And then Tempering, which is just a straightforward 5-point boost. All those cards are nature cards, so in addition to the value that you see here written on the card itself, they will also spawn in the Wandering Treants. Then we can use Filavadnrel to create additional of those nature cards, especially if we get some additional hand boosts on him to give us more options. Simlas can play all of the copies of one of those bronze special cards from our deck, so ideally we're keeping both copies of one of them in our deck, and that way we're maximizing the value when we play Simlas. Then we have the Sorceress of Dol Blathanna, who's very similar to Filavadnrel, although in her case takes a little bit of time to use that ability because it's an order, not a deploy ability. Just want to be careful that she doesn't get lowered below 4 power before you get the chance to use it, otherwise she's no longer able to do anything with that order. For that reason, this is a solid target for your boosting special cards or even your leader ability. And the Witcher Adept, who ideally you just keep in your deck and never actually play, but because we're going to spawn in all those treants, you actually could get a decent amount of bleed or vitality with it. But our big finisher is Harald Gord, because since we're playing so many special cards, we're going to get, in all likelihood, the full 12 power boost on him. And because he's the only dwarf in our deck, if he is still in our deck, and we have Isengrim's Council, we are guaranteed to have the option to play him with Isengrim's Council. So there's a look at the deck, and like I said, it is all about getting a bunch of Symbiosis units on the board, and then playing a bunch of nature special cards to spawn in a ton of Wandering Treants for a bunch of additional value. Now let's go see it in action. Alright, so going up against monsters here, and they'll go first. Okay, so we have Eithne, that's great. She's of course one of, if not our best cards, especially for setting up the Symbiosis. So that's great. We have Freixenet, who's similar in that way. And Force Protector with some setup, with some bronze nature cards, and we certainly have some of those in hand. That looks good. We'd like to make sure that Simlas, although he is amazing, we want to make sure that we have 2 of a kind of some of our special cards in deck, like Nature's Rebuke or Bountiful Harvest. Do we have one of those in hand? We don't. Oh, I think I might have only put one of those in the deck. Let's put Gord back, actually. Oh, okay, now we have fewer options for Simlas, but Ideally, we would tutor Gord in. Technically speaking, we don't yet have a way to make that happen, so that was a little bit of... Oh, Call the Force. Okay, so we can use this to get Gord round 3 at the very end if we'd like to. Alright, so Griffin is big at 9 power, but, how would we like to get things started here? Probably Abandoned Girl, and switch this over on our next turn into a Young Dryad if possible. Generally speaking, you would prefer to play any and all units that we can via special cards like Call the Forest, so we get 2 out per turn, but given now we're going to save this for round 3, and we don't have that many tutoring special cards in this deck, that's probably going to be something we're going to wait out on. So let's go this first. And we might need to play Freixenet in round 1, I'm thinking. Because otherwise, I mean, it depends what they do to this to a certain extent. This stands, we at least have a little bit of Symbiosis going as well. I mean, they can get rid of it with Onsace if they'd like. Now, they're going for a bigger Onsace by playing them in the range row. The dueling. And, okay, they got pretty lucky with those. Those are 2 pretty amazing cards when that was a pretty big gamble. You never know what you're going to get with Uma's Curse. Alright, but now let's switch you over into Young Dryad, because now you have Symbiosis, which, when combined with our leader ability, means that we will get some more powerful treants out here, and... yeah. Do we go this route? I think we probably should. I mean, Onsace, then again, Onsace is going to duel someone, probably you, at the end of our turn. So tell you what, before we play this, let's wait for Onsace to do his thing. Let's boost you up first, so that you are not as straightforward for Onsace to get rid of, or we could just get rid of Onsace altogether. That seems like that's probably the winning play here. And now we can choose who gets the hand boost, and, I mean, Eithne is actually not a great option. I think we go for Freixenet, because I'm a little concerned that this could get destroyed, but I'm pretty sure we're going to lose this boost when she transforms in between rounds. A Crimson Curse is going to deal some damage for sure. It's a really solid card in this event. But we could Purify and remove that bleed and then replace it with Vitality, which is a really nice way to counteract what they just did. So that's an option. The thing is that if we want to play Freixenet in this round, we should do that as early as possible because we get additional benefit out of the Symbiosis. The earlier we get more Young Dryads on the board. So if we think that's necessary, then we should do that. Probably on this turn. I guess we will. And then if we put Vitality on you, that cooldown will go by more quickly. Okay, Artifact Compression. So that is a way to shut down Freixenet, so that's unfortunate, and they might do the same to one of these Young Dryads. I mean, we can, and almost certainly will, in fact, use Dryad's Caress on our next turn to purify these guys. Especially if they get more bleed, and at least you did. So, okay. I think that just about has to be the answer here. So, we are going to lose a little bit of Vitality here, but in order to unlock Freixenet, I think definitely worth it. Technically speaking, we would have gotten the 3-point Wandering Treant if we had done this one first. It's 1 more point if we had done you before you. But that's hopefully not going to be much of a factor. Okay, then you should be off cooldown at the end of this turn here, which means more of the Young Dryads, which will make our subsequent nature cards even more effective. Ooh, okay, well. It does seem as though they insist on getting rid of those cards, which is unfortunate. We do still have a single Symbiosis card here with the Young Dryad, which, when combined with our leader ability, does still give us some value from playing additional nature cards. I mean, they have gone pretty darn aggressively here with, what? Heat Wave, one of their best cards for removal. Artifact Compression for at least control. Crimson Curse, great card. And Uma's Curse, it was as I said, a dice roll, but a dice roll that they did very well on. So, does that mean that we say, alright, we'll just give them a round 1 win if they're willing to overcommit, and we'll save our big stuff for a later round? Maybe. But let's at least go tempering here. Boost you up a bit and get some more treants happening. Because if necessary, if they were to pass right now, we probably would still be in range to catch them, and they do pass. Ooh. Okay, well, now that theory needs to be put to the test, I suppose. I would think it'd be Forest Protector. Probably Forest Protector into Dryad's Caress? With the Vitality? Counteract this bleed? And spawn in additional treants? The math will get a little hard to keep track of, if I'm being brutally honest. The alternative would be Simlas might even be bigger still. If we were to go Nature's Rebuke, especially since we have treants on the board, is definitely bigger. Deathblow is going to be a little awkward to make that work, but you know what? That might be preferable. First round, not going to be Deathblow, but this one will be. And then, ooh, additional copy. I almost forgot. I guess we'll get Deathblow here as well. And that should be enough, even without needing to use additional leader ability charges here. Because we are going to take 3 points of bleed damage, but we will be fine. Just fine. There you go. So there's the range we have, using stuff like Simlas. Okay, so as I said, in between rounds, Eithne is going to transform, and unfortunately we lost a little bit of a hand boost on her, but it's going to be worth it for her to transform, because by the time we get to round 3, since we have Devotion, she is going to turn to Wrath of Brocklon. She's going to be really powerful then. That immunity is going to be really helpful. And we did hold on to Force Protector, that's nice. We still have a way to get Gord. We drew into the Sorceresses, who can be very effective. They have some damage, it would seem, so they might be able to shut these down. But, might stick with this. What else would we want to draw into? The Hamadryads would be great. But I don't really want to get rid of special cards, because those are also usually extremely valuable. So I think, given how we played one more card than our opponent, we are going to dry pass here. And these cards are all good. We just like to have... Filavadnrel obviously would be great. We have a way to get Gord. Hamadryads, since they have Symbiosis and they have the Vitality synergies, would be useful as the cards we're looking for going into round 3, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. Okay, Oniro. One would assume they're just looking for throwaway cards here, but we might be able to learn a little bit more about their deck. So Foglet, it's a Death Wish card, which, I mean, might not look all that intriguing. Okay, they have some consumption as well. I was going to say, sometimes you find in this event, people will put Death Wish cards just to try to dissuade people from using all their specials to remove them. Okay, we drew into Witcher Adept, which is one of, if not our weakest card. I mean, once we get a bunch of treants in, it actually can be a half-decent finisher, so it's not totally out of the question. We did draw into Harald Gord, which we could play from hand, but I was anticipating we'd use Call to Force to get him. I mean, we could, of course, instead use Call to Force to get Filavadnrel, which would boost him up by 1, up to the point where he's a 5. That makes him slightly more effective. So that's not bad. I think the question is largely, do we want you or not? And I think we try to do better. Okay, well then, who are we getting? I guess, Hamadryad in that case, with Call the Forest. Alright, we can make that work. Okay, Frightener Dormant does have, well, I mean, it's an artifact right now, so we can't target it anyway, but even once it transforms into its unit form, it will have immunity, so we can't go after it. So I think what's going to happen... Bringing allied units. We saw they have a little bit of Death Wish. But the dangerous thing, with Arachas Swarm monsters in particular, is Predatory Dive can destroy the lowest 2 cards that we have on our side of the board. So once we get our treants out there, that's a great way to counter that. But until we do that, we are quite vulnerable to that. So I think what we'll look to start off with here is probably go with a Bountiful Harvest first. See what we get. Oh, we really don't have any hand boosting, so that doesn't make much sense. Do we have any elves? We have some elves. We actually have several elves in hand, come to think of it. So you know what? We could do this. And then... don't really have anyone to damage right now. So this is pretty much irrelevant. So we'll just go for the base power, slightly higher in this case. So by starting off with a nature card, I made sure that we got Watering Tree Ants on the board, so if they are going to use something like Predatory Dive, it's going to target our 2 lowest units, which are 2 Watering Tree Ants that we don't really care about. So that means that now it is and there it is. That's why we did it. Because if we had started off with Eithne, although she is probably our best card that we want to play in round 3, if we had started off with her, she would have just gotten destroyed, and that would have been huge. That would have been a huge setback. So that's why I deliberately did not do that. We may still want... Well, I mean, she's a 10 at this point, so even if they have one more Predatory Dive, it's going to get rid of these guys, not Eithne. We'd still like to maybe get a couple more of those Tree Ants down here. I mean, then again, we want to have the Tree Ants. We want to save some of our nature cards to benefit from this Symbiosis, right? So I guess we're willing to sacrifice these guys at this point. So I think now it's safe, relatively speaking, to play Eithne. The immunity is key, because they can't target her with a special card that requires targeting, but Predatory Dive, does not require targeting. Neither does Curse of Corruption. That was devious. So they are very much a removal-centric deck, as is often the case, almost always the case with the Arachas Swarm monsters. It is one of, if not arguably, the strongest archetype in this entire event. So, we were safe from the Predatory Dive, not from Curse of Corruption, though. So now, in that case, what were we saying we were going to get with Call to Force? We were saying Hamadryad, that is also Symbiosis card, and at this point, probably a Symbiosis card that we're going to be looking to get, since we lost our other Symbiosis unit of choice. And since we are playing special cards here, nature special cards, that is, we are getting the some of the Tree Ants down, so if they are about to play another Predatory Dive, we're going to lose these Tree Ants, and that's obviously much better than losing these Hamadryads. They are on 5 power, within removal range for a lot of stuff, so let's go with our last leader ability charges, especially because these guys benefit from that vitality. They get an additional boost. Okay, row effects. Which I think if we continue to play special cards, nature cards specifically, we can hopefully spread out that damage enough that we don't actually risk losing one of these Hamadryads, or at least it's a lower risk. In fact, tempering on the Hamadryads might not be a terrible idea. We'd also like to get the Sorceresses down there relatively soon to get the Scoia'Tael special cards. However, with the damage from Cataclysm, that's going to make matters difficult, because if they get damaged at all below 4 power, then suddenly we can no longer use their order abilities, so we could play them and then try to use Tempering on them afterward. That is an option that might be a better use of the Tempering. So, then again, we have Force Protector, Bride's Caress. That actually might be preferable right now. Where'd you go? Because that means little more vitality for you guys. And we did technically lose 1 turn of vitality by purifying them first, but so be it. Just wanted to get more vitality on these guys in total, because, again, they get the double boost from vitality. Okay, what are they going for here? Spontaneous Evolution. So now they're going wide. Now I think it's when they're actually trying to score points, rather than just remove ours. And they are probably looking to boost all the drones in this row. So if we could do some stuffs to mess with that setup, that would be useful. And Filavadnrel at 4. He has, what, the Scoia'Tael Bomb that moves a card to the other row and does 4 bleed to it, unless it's the only unit in a row. That's not the case, so it's going to be bleed, and it's not super effective. At 5, you'd have more damaging options. Circle of Life might be what we're looking for, though, in that case. Or maybe we take this opportunity to sneak in the Sorceresses. It's still going to be a couple turns of Cataclysm that might hit them, but we do still have Tempering, which we can use to heal them up. Or Filavadnrel, with his order ability, or his deploy ability, probably going to give us other boosting special cards. And I don't think they're going to use a damaging special card here, because I think they're about to try to boost all these guys. This is going to be... Oh, okay, Chimera. For a second there, I thought it was going to be blanking out on it, but the one that destroys all 1-power units. Okay, fortunately, nothing hit this Sorceress, so that's great. So now I think what we do is we play this Sorceress, and we will use this Sorceress to ideally boost this Sorceress, because you only want to play 1 special card per turn, ideally, because you're only getting 1 special card that you play twice per turn in this event. Any subsequent special card gets played the usual 1 time. So, given how we were probably, on the turn that we play the Sorceress of Dol Blathanna, not going to play any other special cards, unless we use this Order ability, that could work well. So this was the damaging card I was referring to, Making a Bomb, which just doesn't really work in this instance all that much. There is Waylay. I forgot about Waylay. I mean, yes, we can remove some, and that will limit their damage to a certain extent, but I think we want to get the extra boosts on this Sorceress to make it so that even if she gets hit by the Cataclysm, she's still going to be in decent shape here. And once again, you know, yes, we're losing 1 turn worth of Vitality in order to gain, well, on net, gain 2. It's still worth more points on the Hamadryad than it is on a Forest Protector at this point. Okay, Chimera again. And there is the Freixenet flipping over. And so now we do have the Sorceress, which we can play safely. For what it's worth, as I was saying before, we want to try to only play 1 special card per turn. Otherwise, we're not going to get the extra bonus special card. And so this Sorceress gives us 1 special card. Filavadnrel would give us a special card. This, obviously, both of these are special cards. So, technically speaking, the ideal way, maybe not the practical way, but the ideal way of playing this would be Sorceress on the same turn that we play Gord, and Gord is the finisher that we'd like to use. They have already used a lot of their removal, so maybe Gord is safe early, but we'd like to probably save him for last. So I think what we'll do here is we'll go Circle of Life, especially because at 3 power, these drones make a little more sense to target than they did before, and we can get some hand boosts on Filavadnrel, which actually does open up some additional options for us with him. So that's potentially not insignificant. Okay, so I'm curious though, what if any removal do they have? Because if they do have some, they're going to want to use it on the Sorceress, but no, this is another card I was expecting them to use. The Arachas Behemoth will boost these guys, including this invisible drone. Then Foglet, not sure if they'll have the means to consume... Oh, well, they had the giant toad, so yes, they will. And that's a good row to do it in. They'll hit the lowest unit, which is just going to be these tree ants, which shouldn't be a huge factor. So now we're talking either Filavadnrel or Tempering. And I think we're probably looking at Filavadnrel here. We're not going to get any additional hand boosting unless Sorceress's ability happens to give us a Scoia'Tael special card that could do that, but that's, again, something we'd like to save for our last turn when we play Harald Gord. So let's go... we can go with either of these. Let's do Tempering for now. I think it's probably a little bit safer than playing our bigger units, because Filavadnrel is an 8, whereas Tempering, I mean, yes, it is going to give us some bigger tree ants, but let's go for this. And we'll split our boosts a bit. Technically, I think this range row is a little bit bigger, so we might double down to a certain extent in the melee row. So I'm expecting probably a Bone Talisman or 2 from them as their finishers, because that will boost every unit on their side of the board, and when they are as wide as they are, when they have as many units as they have, that can be one of, if not the best finisher for them. Or a Yennefer, although we have a lot of units as well, so that wouldn't be as effective. Okay, it's Karen, actually. Okay. So now I think it's Filavadnrel. The question here is, melee row gives us exactly an 8 provision cost Scoia'Tael special card, which I'm not even sure I can think of one. Is Call the Forest 8 provisions? Or rather, Isengrim's Council it is. Do we want it Isengrim's Council? It cannot get Witchers or humans, so the answer is almost certainly no, so that means we should go range row, where we'll get something that could be up to 8 provisions, but maybe lower, and it is definitely lower in this case. Waylay or Tempering are probably the best options here, and Waylay is what? It's not a nature card, notably, whereas Tempering is, so I think we want Tempering, because that means we're getting additional procs of the Symbiosis, and they cannot catch us, let alone the fact that we still had an order ability on our Sorceress and our Harald Gord finisher. So they'll forfeit. Alright, so going up against monsters here. And we'll go first. Okay, so notably we have some big cards here, like Simlas, like Filavadnrel, although we do not have Eithne. That is perhaps the biggest gap we have here. And I don't think we have a way to get her unless we use her scroll to either get her directly or to get Call the Forest. But let's see what we can do to switch some things out here. I'm thinking we're probably looking to dump this Witcher Adept, one of our weakest cards. Nature's Rebuke we also need to consider. Does Simlas have enough bronze special cards to use here? And he does not. We should put away you. Hamadryad is slightly better. I think we dump you as well. Bountiful Harvest. Okay, so it means that what I wanted to be sure of was that Simlas had 2 copies of, in this case, Circle of Life to play from our deck. So we get the full value out of that. And, or we could have put Dryad's Caress. This is, I mean, it's still actually quite effective with the Hamadryad, which might be what we start off with here. Give us a little bit of Symbiosis right off the bat, and it's not as important if it does get destroyed as, say, something like, well, Eithne, of course. So we could do that, or we could go straight into something like Bountiful Harvest. Against monsters, you do always need to be wary, in this event in particular, of a predatory dive. It's most common with Arachas Swarm, though, and they are not Arachas Swarm. They're probably more of a Wild Hunt deck. So I think we will still go Hamadryad right off the bat. This could very well get destroyed. It likely will get destroyed. But we're going to see if it sticks around, and then if so, we can build out from there. If not, then... Oh, Johnny, okay, they're getting a little greedy here. Trying to get him down before they play all their special cards, but we can probably remove him with Nature's Rebuke. In fact, we have more damage with Nature's Rebuke than we actually need at this stage. Might even go Bountiful Harvest and see if we happen to get damage from the units that come out of that. Because otherwise, we did put some of our damaging special cards back into our deck to set up Simlas, and we don't really want to do Simlas into double Circle of Life right now. That feels like that's probably overkill. Filavadnrel, similarly, range row or melee row could give us the damage to get rid of you, but that also feels like that's perhaps a little bit overkill. So, I mean, Whisper of Dol Blathanna could be amazing. Even if this is damage, it's not immediate damage, so I think we start off with you. And then... that's more what I'm looking for. It's not quite enough to remove Johnny, but it is close. And we've at least gotten some value out of the Symbiosis on the Hamadryad. And we also will... oh, okay, they're going to try to clog this row here with the Whispers of Dol Blathanna. Okay, so yeah, they very much are looking like they are a full-blown Wild Hunt deck if they're going with Red Riders. Amazing card, actually, in this event. Specifically for Wild Hunt, of course. But, oh, we also got a little bit of a boost on Filavadnrel, which is very nice at 6 power specifically. If we play him in the melee row, that means we are, I believe, guaranteed to have the option of playing another Bountiful Harvest, which means more nature procs for the Treants, and also 2 more units, some of which may have damage to get rid of Johnny. So that's a nice middle ground approach, a little bit of a best of both worlds situation. I think we might go for that. It's a little aggressive. Filavadnrel, of course, a big card, but we have some setup here. So, not really damage here, but Elven Scribe can certainly get bigger. So, engine-wise, that is an interesting prospect, but we're looking for damage, and we can get damage if we go melee row here, although Sorceress is probably a better card long-term, short-term. Getting rid of Johnny is, of course, an interesting prospect. And we have absolutely flooded our rows here. That is kind of what they made a point of doing by switching over the Whisper into this range row. But, yeah, this melee row, or rather, this range row is going to be completely filled quite soon. It is now completely full. This Ancient Foglet, unbelievably powerful in this event. See all these, Frost turns? Fortunately, this one that gets spawned does not get the boost from the pre-existing Frost, But we need to get rid of this, and we are definitely going to need to get rid of the one that they spawn in, or that they play in, immediately after this. So, the question is just, do we wait to go with both Nature's Rebukes? Hold on, how big is the boost? Total duration of row effects on the opposite side. They played one from their hands, it'd be a 12. It's not quite enough for us to get rid of it. With one Nature's Rebuke. I think we will bide our time a little bit here. Let's go Dryad's Caress on you. Boost you up, get the Vitality. And then... Couldn't matter too much where we put this one. Our rows are almost completely full. Honestly, we should use this Curse Scroll pretty darn soon here. Otherwise, we're going to run out of time and space. Well, space less so, but more so time. Because we want to make sure that we get Eithne, or wait to get Eithne. But I'm expecting to see the Ancient Foglet from their hand here, unless they think that they just can't catch us at this stage. But no, there it is. So this should be, what, a 12? And they might even use a leader ability charge to get even higher than that. They will. Okay. So now, I think the plan is use Curse Scroll to probably swap out one of these Temperings, because I think that's probably our weakest card that we have in hand here. And get either Eithne directly, or Call the Force, which we could use to get Eithne, or even Isengrim's Council similarly, which might even be preferable. Well, we have other Dryads, so we're not guaranteed to get Eithne. We would be guaranteed to have the option of seeing Gord, because he's the only dwarf we have in our deck, but it's probably safest to go Call the Force. Most flexibility there. We'll put back one of these Temperings, and then we will use Nature's Rebuke, and at this point with 2 of these Ancient Foglets, that's a little scary. We could get rid of you with a bunch of overkill damage, or we could weaken you without getting rid of you. Probably should have gone for the overkill damage just to deny them the additional engine growth, but we do have a sizable lead here still. Have they used... Ooh, they've not used their echoing card to put Frost on both rows. That's almost certainly what they're about to do, and it is a huge point slam. Hand of 1,000 Fables is going to be to get it. There it is. Hard Geth. Gonna make these guys ginormous. Not enough by itself. Oh. I was expecting to see that they would get the Winter Queen out, but she's most powerful when they have Devotion, because I think she only gets summoned out from their deck when she has Devotion. I don't remember if she only gets boosted based on the remaining amounts of Frost they have on both rows when she has Devotion, or if that still works without Devotion. But obviously, they have Operator and they have Land of 1,000 Fables, both of which are neutrals, so they don't have that capability. So we are still going to get a tiny bit of additional boost from the Vitality and the extra boost that Hamadryad gets when it has Vitality. Our rows are full. We could still get some damage from double Nature's Rebuke. Double boost from Shaping Nature. Getting the Echo is not a terrible idea. You know what? I think we will do it. And just to get the additional value out of the big boost here. Short term, and we'll get both echoed copies going into round 2, which is really nice. Savior, okay, well, they're going to immediately try to banish that, so okay, maybe not so much on the double echoed copies, but I think we can somewhat safely say that we can pass here. They may be able to catch us with one more card, but I think it's somewhat unlikely. And of course, we're saving Call the Force to get Eithne. Okay, Well Done Navigator was, yes, fantastic finisher, if I remember correctly. The damage we take, I'm going to put this at 65 apiece. Oh man, do they need to play one more card? It looks like they will. Okay, they are playing its Red Riders, which will give them... I mean, that's one of their best setup cards for all their Frosts. And the Frost is the key to everything they're trying to do, so that's a big commitment there. It is enough for them to win round 1, but they go 2 cards down to do it. Okay, and we draw into several really big cards here. Forest Protector, after having played some nature cards in round 1. Very useful. Eithne, we were planning to use our Call the Forest to get her, but now we don't need to do that. We are probably going to see them dry pass in this round, so we're looking for a throwaway. That can probably be the Abandoned Girl. And I just want to make sure that we still have the means for Simlas to play 2 special cards. Circle Life is still looking like that's going to be the answer, so we can keep Nature's Rebuke and Tempering in hand. I mean, we maybe could swap out Tempering for something better, but I think, given how we want to make sure that we still have both of those bronze special cards set up for Simlas, we don't want to accidentally draw into one of them with one of those mulligans. Wow. This is very, very aggressive. Okay, so these Naglfar's crew will get boosted whenever there's frost on the opposing row. Maybe their plan was to just throw down some frost, get these guys out there, get the echoed copies of Neromancy set up for round 3, and hope that we're going to try to catch them, but we might forget about how they're going to get some additional boosts even after they pass on these Naglfar's crew. However, if we are to, say, use Nature's Rebuke to remove both of them, since we play 2 per turn, we'll spawn in 2 Treants in the process. As long as they don't both end up here, then we should be fine. And that's the only card we need, pacing-wise, to play. So I think that's what we're going for here. It's a little bit up to RNG. Just need, yep, 1 Treant to end up in that range row where it's not going to get automatically killed by the frost. And we even get the Death Blow to boost up this Treant, so I think that's not only getting rid of their engines, but giving us some cards on the board as well, so we maintain 2-card advantage here. So that's even better for us. Okay, now we're drawn to 2 Sorceresses of Dol Blathanna. Great cards if they can last long enough to use that order ability without getting damaged. Otherwise, if they drop below 4, they won't be able to do it. Isengrim's Council, another tutor card. I mean, at this point, do we have enough units in our deck for that to be reasonable, usable? Harald Gord, Hamadryad, they're both tutorable with either of them. And Call the Forest could get us Freixenet, which is another card we'd want to play on the early side, and we would need for Call the Forest to give us one of the either Witcher or Humans, because those are not tutorable with Isengrim's Council, but I think this is fine unless we want to get rid of you. And, I mean, either way, I guess we were going to find a way to play just about every unit from our deck with all of our tutors. Oh, no, one less than the maximum, since we have enough to tutor 4 cards, so it'll be definitely you early. And we can guarantee that we get you even with Isengrim's Council. So Isengrim's Council should be you and you. Ooh, but that means we're going to have to play Gord on the early side then? Because Isengrim's Council can't give us any of these guys. So that means these are going to have to be from Call the Forest. Okay, it's a little bit awkward. It does mean we're going to have to play a big card right off the bat. But, well, normally we would go Eithne first to get the Symbiosis going as soon as possible, because obviously the earlier we get that, the better. But they might have Predatory Dive. It's unlikely, but it's possible. So let's not start off with her, otherwise we're asking for trouble. So we'll actually start with the Hamadryad. And that way it's potentially some removal bait if they want to try to destroy it. We'd rather they go after that than Eithne. Eithne does have immunity, so most sources of removal would not be any harm to her, but Predatory Dive does not require that they target a unit specifically, so it is still capable of taking her out, and it is an extremely effective card for monsters in this event, which is why I'm deliberately not starting with her. They're going to stick to the Frost here, though, and so if we don't do something, help out this Hamadryad, it will get destroyed. I mean, we could just play another card in this row, and that would not be the case anymore. We may even go Sorceress. It will get damaged if we play it in this row. But then if we're expecting to, say, do something like Tempering soon thereafter, then we can use that to boost up both of them, and that's no longer much of an issue. That might still be the plan. So we want to make sure we have at least 1 more unit. 2 units total on the board before we play Eithne, because, remember, Predatory Dive, they play it. There it is. It removes 2 cards. And that is why we played bronze units before we played Eithne, because that is one of the only ways they could possibly get rid of her. And we fortunately dodged that bullet. They might still have another one. So we probably still want to play it a little bit safe here. And, well, if we go Isengrim's Council, it is a Nature's card. So it is going to spawn in Treants, which is actually the best way to counter the predatory dives, because then we're just going to lose Treants. Not a huge deal. We, of course, would, on the other hand, like to save our nature cards until after we have our Symbiosis engines on the board, so that we're getting bigger Treants in the first place. But I think we kind of need to balance those two things out, because we want to get... Wait, hold on. What happened to... Oh, right, you're a human! I thought you were a Dryad. Oh, dear. Yep, you count as a human. So this is just Gord, and only Gord. So that's not what we want, in that case. We will still spawn in another Treant. So, technically, we are predatory dive proof here. But if I had realized that we were only going to get Gord, and we did not have any prospect of getting Freixenet on that turn, then I would not have gone with a predatory dive there. Offering, they do have a target, obviously. So what we're going to do in that case is go call the forest into Freixenet. That's the only way we actually could have gotten it. And that was the reason why we played it early. We wanted Freixenet early to get as many Symbiosis units on the board as quickly as possible. Ancient Foglets. Pretty big. And they have the potential to get bigger. That is a bit of a threat. We go call the forest. We're trying to maximize the Symbiosis. It would be Freixenet, and it would be Abandoned Girl. Witcher Adept would give us a little bit of additional bleed, which is a sort of damage, but, well, it doesn't work on them because they fail. Do we have Nature's Rebuke in our graveyard? We do, so that is a possibility with Force Protector. It's not enough damage to get rid of them, though. So I think we're just going for the greedy approach here. And what we technically wanted to do, what I meant to do, on our previous turn, just get you out as quickly as possible. We should try to load up on this row as much as possible to minimize the damage from the frost, although that does potentially lead us right into a Yrden trap, though I'm not sure how common that's really going to be in this event. More Argeth. This is their second copy of it, and that's why this deck is so good. Let me know if you guys are interested in us doing a Wild Hunt deck, because we did this once before for dual casting, and for some reason you guys just didn't seem to like it as much as other decks, even though it was really effective. I really liked it. So if it is still of interest, I would like to revisit it, but only if you guys are going to want to play that deck. So let me know. But other than that, ooh, we do have Simlas for damage, namely Circle of Life. We aren't going to get the Death Blow, but maybe that's still worth doing at this stage. We should first convert you into a young Dryad. And at this point, we do have enough weak units on the board that it might be Eithne time. Tell you the truth, I think it is. I think it is. So if they were to have one more predatory dive, which at this stage is kind of unlikely, we'd lose this, and we'd lose this. It's one Symbiosis unit down, but okay, that's another big source of boosts. They may look to use teleportation on this Wild Hunt Navigator because it is that good. Or Red Riders, they used... No, they used both Red Riders in round one. Okay, this would be the exact circumstance for it, to basically replay this finisher. So that's big that they don't have it, but we know they're not Devotion, so they might have teleportation, which would give them another way to replay it and get additional source of boosts there. So this might be the best target for us to get in the Death Blow on the Circle of Life. First round, obviously not going to do it. But the second round will, so we can choose who we want to boost, and we want to make sure we have enough time to have the Sorceress do her thing. Then, I mean, just hit you because we can. And at this point, we have enough Symbiosis that we're getting 7 power Treants, which is a pretty big deal. And then we should also put some Vitality on you, so you get your cooldown back more quickly. Okay, Dragon's Dream on both rows, which is going to replace the Frost, but it will deal 3 damage to every unit in a row, which the Treants can tank. These young Dryads cannot. Technically speaking, may be able to pass. If we pass them on this turn, and their finisher here is not enough for them to catch us, we could pass before this actually triggers. It's unlikely that that would be worth doing, but it's technically a possibility. So we can either go more nature procs or sorceress at this stage. And I think we do need to go sorceress now. Once again, probably looking for this. Technically a little bit overkill on the order ability there to recharge, but let's see. Oniro into what? I think we're playing all of our cards here, probably. Imlerith's Wrath. It's huge. It is capable of removing anything. And that is the reason why we would have, ideally, waited to play Harald Gord, but they used Oniro to get it, so they actually can only play it once. They should probably do Surrender on this row. They should not have done it on that row, because all the units that they thought they were destroying from Surrender were going to get destroyed by Dragonstream anyway. And now Dragonstream doesn't really add any incremental value. So we are playing, because obviously we can't pass now, otherwise we're just going to lose. We lost some Symbiosis units. We lost our Freixenet, which was giving us additional Symbiosis units. We still have Eithne, who's Symbiosis 3. This young Dryad, Symbiosis 1. Leader ability, Symbiosis 1 as well, so total of 5 power from any subsequent treants that we spawn in. I think at this point we're probably looking for Tempering, because if we go Force Protector right now, then that means it's one more unit that's going to get hit by Dragonstream at the start of our turn. So let's go Tempering here, and guess we'll boost you slightly weaker guys. And then, technically speaking, this Sorceress is still... is that worth more? That might actually be worth slightly more. Technically speaking, we'd like to play that Sorceress's Order ability on the same turn, or rather, on a turn in which we are not playing any other special cards, so we get the double special card there. Since we had already played a special card, we only got one copy of it. So we need to make up 19, or really 20 points here. With Force Protector, I mean, that's almost enough as is, but once you factor in that we're getting any bronze nature card from our graveyard that we would like, maybe Bountiful Harvest, maybe Nature's Rebuke. We are not going to get the Death Blow. Maybe it is Bountiful Harvest. A little bit more of an unknown quantity, but I think we can make this work. We're not going to have... are we going to have enough specials to proc you? I don't think we are. I mean, so you're technically worth the most here? Then we go here, and also not really going to have a lot of opportunity here. Although you are the only unit in that row, so we get the extra damage, and it's more than enough, so we'll take the win. So there's a look at a Scoia'Tael Symbiosis deck for the new dual casting seasonal event. If you liked the video, then make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and leave a comment down below to let me know which other cards, archetypes, and factions you'd like us to experiment with next. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.